Hello everybody! If you want to read all the stories in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you. Short story 591, The Green Heart of Veridia. Upper beginner. Emma stood on the dusty ground of Planet Veridia. The sky was a pale, empty red. Nothing grew here. Nothing lived here. It was her job to change this. She was a terraforming engineer, and Veridia was her project. She started her work. Huge machines, which looked like giant insects, moved across the land. They released special gases into the atmosphere. The red skies slowly began to turn a light orange, then a soft pink, and finally a gentle blue. It took 2 full years for the sky to look like home. Next, Emma's team introduced tiny microorganisms. These small living things began to change the soil. They made it soft and full of nutrients. She spent many hours in her lab watching them grow in small glass containers. She was the only person on the planet, and her work was her company. After 4 more years, the soil was ready. Emma took a small black case and opened it. Inside were seeds. These were not normal seeds. They were strong, designed to grow quickly. She walked across the land, planting the first seeds by hand. A week later, she saw something incredible. A small green shoot. It was the first plant on Veridia. Over the next 10 years, Veridia changed completely. The small green shoots became tall trees. Rivers once frozen began to flow with clear water. The air was fresh and cool. It smelled like rain and new flowers. The blue sky was now filled with fluffy white clouds. One morning, Emma heard a new sound. It was not a machine. She looked up and saw a small bird with bright blue wings. It had come from the spaceship, a part of the next step. She watched it land on a tree branch she had planted years before. It was a sign. Emma smiled. She was an old woman now with grey hair. She walked to a hill and looked out at the green world. Her work was done. Veridia was no longer a brown, empty planet. It had a green heart, ready for new life. Vocabulary notes. Terraforming. This is a scientific process of changing a planet to make it like Earth. The goal is to make it suitable for humans to live on. Example from the story. She was a terraforming engineer, and Veridia was her project. Similar words. Planet shaping. Planetary engineering. Engineer. A person who designs, builds or maintains machines, engines or public structures. In this story, an engineer works on a scientific project. Example from the story. She was a terraforming engineer, and Veridia was her project. Similar words. Designer, builder, technician. Microorganisms. These are very tiny living things, so small you can't see them without a microscope. They are important for changing the soil and making it healthy. Example from the story. Emma's team introduced tiny microorganisms. Similar words. Germs, bacteria, microbes. Incredible. This adjective means something is amazing, hard to believe, or very good. Example from the story. A week later, she saw something incredible, a small green shoot. Similar words. Amazing, wonderful, unbelievable, fantastic. Nutrients. These are substances that living things need to grow and stay healthy. Plants get them from the soil, and animals and humans get them from food. Example from the story. They made it soft and full of nutrients. Similar words: food, sustenance, minerals. Story written by Gemini Pro AI. Image created by Imagio AI. To read all the stories in full, please go to www.steveuk.blog. Thank you. CC Music, drifting at 432 Hz, Unicorn Heads.
Ever thought about, taking something impossible and actually making it happen? Today we're doing a deep dive into this really fascinating short story. It's about one person, literally changing an entire planet. Our mission: to unpack her journey, this terraforming engineer, and maybe find some surprising ideas about, perseverance in creation, especially when someone is completely alone.
Right. And just to paint a picture for you, Planet Veridia, when we first see it, it's just dust, barren rock. The sky is this pale, empty red color. No life, nothing. You immediately get this sense of the scale, the sheer size of the task facing our main character, Emma. It's not just a project, it's like creating a world from scratch.
Okay, so a totally desolate planet. Emma, this engineer, she has to make it habitable. I mean, changing a whole atmosphere. How do you even start something like that? What's the first step?
Well, the absolute first big thing was the atmosphere. They use these huge machines, kind of insect-like, crawling across the surface, and they release these very specific gases. But the thing that really hits you is the time it took. 2 full years. Just watching, waiting for that red sky to shift through orange, then pink, until finally, this soft, hopeful blue.
2 years just for the sky. That level of patience is, it's hard to grasp. But okay, a blue sky is great, but you need ground too, right? So next up, soil regeneration. She used tiny microorganisms, I gather, to sort of make the dirt usable.
Exactly. Little microscopic helpers to break down the rock, make it soft, add nutrients.
And this is where her isolation really comes in. She was the only human there for years, right? Just in her lab working.
Yeah, hours and hours. The work was basically her only companion. It really makes you think about the mental strength needed for that.
Definitely. So how long did the soil part take?
That was another 4 years. 4 more years until the ground was finally ready. Imagine waiting all that time. And then this incredible moment comes. Emma planting seeds herself. Special seeds, strong, fast-growing ones. She plants them by hand. And a week later, there it is, the first tiny green shoot pushing up through the soil.
The very first plant on Veridia.
The very first. It's such a powerful image, that tangible start of life after years of quiet, lonely preparation.
Okay, fast forward 10 years from that first little shoot. What does Veridia look like now?
Oh, it's completely transformed. Those little shoots, now they're tall trees. Rivers that were frozen solid are flowing with clear water. The air, it actually smells fresh, like rain and flowers.
And the sky.
Blue, definitely blue, but now with fluffy white clouds. A living world. It must have been absolutely breathtaking to see.
Incredible. So how did Emma know her work was done? Was there a specific signal?
There was this really symbolic moment. One morning, she heard something new. Not the hum of her machines. She looked out, and there was this small bird, bright blue wings. It had arrived on a supply ship, apparently, and it landed right on a branch of a tree that Emma herself had planted years before.
Wow.
Yeah. And it kind of raises that question, doesn't it? What does finished even mean on that scale? For her, it wasn't data. It was that bird, that unexpected sign of life.
So Emma, now an older woman, she gets to see this green world she built. Veridia wasn't just rock anymore. It had a green heart, as the story says, ready for people. It's such a powerful picture of what one person, even alone, can build from absolutely nothing.
It really is. And if you think about the bigger picture, her story, spanning decades, it's not just about the science of terraforming. It speaks volumes about dedication, about holding on to a single vision for so long, maybe even because of the isolation. It's about breathing life into emptiness.
So thinking about all this, what does it mean for you listening right now? This deep dive into Veridia makes you wonder about the long game, doesn't it? The impact of small steps taken consistently, even when no one's watching. Think about it. What barren ground exists in your own life? What seemingly impossible long-term project demanding that kind of patient, maybe solitary effort could you start cultivating? What could you turn into something vibrant and new?